It's a new year, and that means it's time for a new TBR. I'm very excited about this. You may have noticed my shelves look crazy behind me, and that's because I picked out so many books, and they're just laying on the floor in front of me. So let's get on to it. This is my 25 books I want to read in 2025. The first book to make the list is Vona by Tasha Mashfeg. This has been on so many TBRs, like so many different TBRs, seasonal TBRs, like TBRs I want to read. I think this was on my last year's TBR. And it's made it to so many videos of like books I own and I really want to read, and I have not read it. So essentially what I know about this novel is that it takes place in like a medieval town, and it follows a class war. So you're following like these more impoverished people who are rising up against, I think, their oppressors, or maybe they're just grumbling about it and it's just like a commentary on class. I don't really know. What I do know is that Tasha Mashfeg has been a very hit or miss author for me. I really loved My Year of Rest and Relaxation by her, but I found her other books I've read just to be okay. But the thing about this one is that this really sounds like it's up my alley. Like, I love commentary on class. I also really like historical settings. I also really like the cover. Like, I just love a cover with a painting on it. So I really think this one is going to be for me. I just need to actually read it, which is apparently the hard part. Next is another book that has graced many TBR videos, and that is Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. This book is the third book in the Dune series, so if you don't know, I feel like everyone knows, but I give a little synopsis just in case. I don't want anyone to feel left out, okay? If you don't know, Dune essentially follows the House Atreides, which is given dominion over a planet called Arrakis. Arrakis is a really important planet because they mine this thing called spice there, which is used in a lot of like different sci-fi things in the series. But soon after House Atreides takes over the planet, they're betrayed by someone close to them. But luckily, the son and the mother manage to escape, and they go to live with the Fremen, which are the indigenous people of Arrakis. From there, the story just gets bigger and bigger. The son becomes like a martyr figure to them. Maybe not, that's not the right word. He becomes a godlike figure to them. And it just gets more and more crazy. I read books 1 and 2 of the Dune series last year. I really liked both of them. They're a very different book. Dune 1 has a lot more action. Dune 2 is a lot more introspective and slow. And with the way the Dune 2 ended, I'm really interested in this one, particularly. I've also heard that this is where the books start getting weird, but also that it's where they start getting bad. So that's kind of why I haven't wanted to pick it up. I'm afraid of it being bad, but I'm also excited by the fact that it's supposed to be really weird. So I just need to really like kick myself in the ass and pick it up, is really what it comes down to. The next one is kind of a cheat, to be honest. That is Be Sure by Shannon McGuire. This is the first 3 books in the Wayward Children series. So I have read the first book before, so that's why I'm saying it's kind of a cheat, because it's kind of a reread. But I want to read this whole like physical book, which is books 1 to 3. So technically there's new books here as well. Technically this counts as 2 new books. So this is 26 books I want to read in 2024. 2025. Oh my god, I can't even get the year right. Anyway, this series essentially is like composed of really short novels. Each one follows a child that found their perfect like fantasy world, but for some reason they had to leave it, and now they're in this like special home that knows how to deal with these children and how to deal with like their disappointments of being back in the regular world. I really liked the first book when I read it, but that was years ago, and I've since packed up that book. I don't even know where it is. So when I was at Barnes & Noble a couple months ago, I picked this like compendium up, and it's made me even more excited to get back into the series. And I really I want to be back in this world. I want to learn more about these children. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. After that, we have The Virgin Suicides by a man whose name I cannot pronounce. Jeffrey Eugenides? I said that and it sounds like eugenics, so I feel like that's not right. Eugenides? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I actually watched this movie when I was very young. Like, probably too young to be watching a movie about a bunch of girls who kill themselves. Because that's what this book is about. This book follows the 5 lesbian sisters, and they all kill each other. Not each other! Oh my god, I keep saying that. They all kill themselves. And it really takes from the perspective of, like, neighborhood boys who have been obsessed with these girls. I really like the movie. I think it's really well done, but I haven't read the book, which is crazy. Because, again, I really like the movie. I like the story. This is, like, exactly the kind of, like, sad girl shit that I pick up all the time. So I don't know why it's taking me so long to pick up this book, but I'm hoping to pick it up this year. Next is a book I know nothing about, and I will not be reading the synopsis. That is Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. It's been a while since I've picked up a Joan Didion. That's not exactly true. I picked up, what's it called? The Year of Magical Thinking by her, not after my grandmother died, but I put it back down quickly. So it's been a while since I've read a Joan. Oh my god, I can't speak. I have no idea what this one is about, but I really loved Play It As It Lays. And I really want to read everything that Joan Didion has written. So I think this is a good next one just because I've seen this book so many places. Like, I've seen this cover so many times. I just want to pick it up. I just trust her and I want to see what she writes about. So this is on the list. Next is a book that I luckily got for Christmas, and that is There by Tommy Orange. This book follows, I believe, 12 people from Native communities, and they're all traveling for this big powwow that's being held. And as the story goes on, you kind of realize how their stories are intertwined. That's all I know, but I really know that this is a really beloved book, and I've wanted to read it for such a long time now. I'm excited that it's finally on my shelf, so I think this is going to be the year that I pick it up. Okay, so there's going to be a couple books on this list that I actually don't know anything about, because this is another one whose synopsis I'm not going to be reading, and that's Stoner by John Williams. This is a book that all the lit fic girlies obsess over. I've seen this on Bookstagram so many times and so many pictures. I always see it being recommended. I always see people like obsessing over it after they've read it. Somehow throughout the course of this, I have not figured out what this book is about, but what I do know is that I really want to read it just based off all the hype. I also really want to get into like reading NYRB classics this year, so this is a perfect part of the list then to add that in. And I don't know what this man's deal is, but I'm gonna figure it out. Then we have Breasts and Eggs by Miyoko Kawakami. Another one I'm not too keen on, like synopsis wise. I know it tells a story of like 3 women in a working class neighborhood in Tokyo, but that's all I really know. I'm assuming just based off of like the title and cover that it has to do with like feminism. I've heard so much about this author though, and I've always heard people praising her, and I like convinced I'm gonna love her because of that. So I want to pick this one up soon. Then we have Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro. This is another publisher that I really want to read. This is a Charco Press book. And I am just convinced I'm going to love everything that Charco Press publishes, so I really want to get started, and I'd like to get started with this book in particular. This is another book that I've heard so much about. From what I understand, it essentially follows like an older woman whose daughter dies, but she doesn't accept the police's versions of events, and she goes out to investigate it herself. That doesn't normally sound like something I'd pick up, like it doesn't pique my interest that much, but I know that like people who are really into like literary fiction really love this one, so I think that synopsis in like a lit fic kind of way would work, if that makes any sense. I just really want to pick it up, and this is another book by an Argentinian author, and I found out that I'm really attracted to books by Argentinian authors. Like, they always just sound so interesting. So I think for my Read Around the World challenge, I'm going to start off with Argentina. I'm going to start off with this book. We will see. Next is A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers. This is a book that I basically just know the vibes of. I know that it has this beautiful, beautiful cover. I'm obsessed with it. I'm actually going to do a video where I just read books with beautiful covers that I don't know much about. And this one will be in that video because I don't know much about it. I think it has to do with cannibalism. That's all I've really got to tell ya. All I know is that this one, my younger cousin told me not to read and that it's not good. But I've seen a lot of other people really like bragging about how great it is online, like especially like the flowery writing, I believe. So I'm gonna give it a shot in that video and I will let you know what I think. Then we have Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This takes place in 90s Ireland, I want to say. I know it takes place in Ireland. I'm not sure about the time period. But it follows this girl who has this boy best friend. Everyone's convinced they're like gonna grow up and get married. And she's kind of accepted that version of events herself as well. But then she starts crushing on a girl from her class and they kind of get involved. And it's kind of like this coming of age story, but at the same time, she lives in a very conservative community and she's really afraid about coming out. So it's kind of like, is she going to live her true self or not? I've heard that it has gorgeous writing. I've heard that it uses a lot of religious imagery when talking about love, and I'm obsessed with religious imagery. Like, I'm not even a religious person. Like, I didn't grow up going to church or anything, really. Not to the extent that most people would do, at least. But for some reason, I'm just in love with religious imagery. So that's honestly the main reason I really want to pick this up. But I've also just heard it's a beautiful story, so that's an added benefit. Next, we have a book that everyone was talking about last year and I'm so far out of the loop for. And then it's Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I know this follows boys. I know it has to do with chess. Just based off of the cover, I know it has to do with chess. And that's all I've got for you to say about the synopsis. I do want to pick this up because it's Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney, like, I loved Normal People, but I have been kind of, like, iffy on her other books. I just thought they were good. I didn't think they were, like, amazing. I don't even think I've kept them on my shelves. But I've heard from a lot of people that this is her best, which is saying a lot because people go batshit crazy over Sally Rooney. I want to also go batshit crazy over Sally Rooney. So I really want to pick this up this year, and I really want to see, like, if the hype is real or not, like, if I should believe people who are talking about this book and loving it so much. I don't know. I just want to read it for myself and see what I think. After that, we have Clarine by Jade Song. This book is, like, a horror novel that follows a girl who's, like, a swimmer and really wants to be a mermaid. That's, like, the only idea of this I have. I'm sure there's more that goes on in here, but I hear a horror novel and I hear a girl who wants to be a mermaid, and I'm like, that's it. That's all I need to know. I want to pick it up. I've been getting really into horror lately, and I love books about creatures, so this has to make the list. I'm convinced I'm going to love this one, actually. The next book takes a bit of a different turn from the rest, and that is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. So this is the first classic to make the list, and yes, it does mean that there are more classics on this list. I really want to start reading more classics, because it's not like I don't enjoy them when I read them. I'm just so intimidated by them. But then some classics like Jane Eyre is an absolute favorite. I love that book with my whole heart. And I have become convinced that I'm gonna like Anne Bronte even more. I don't know why this is. I think I've heard that, like, she was kind of the least recognized sister, if that makes sense, and that her books are the more feminist of the three. And I've heard those two things, and I'm like, okay, so she's gonna be my bitch. Like, she's gonna be the one that I really love. So I have really high expectations for this, and I don't know if that's fair at all. And I think she's only ever written, like, 2 books before she died. So there really isn't much for me to go off of here, but I'm convinced this is gonna be, like, a new obsession. And I have the beautiful cloth-bound edition, which I love so much. So, really have to read this one this year. Like, please make me read this one this year. Cyberbully me. Do whatever it takes. After that, we have Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. This is a beautiful little book, or at least in my mind, it's a beautiful little book. Aesthetically, it is, like, cover-wise, beautiful. But in my mind, it's also a beautiful story, and I don't know that because I haven't even read it. But this follows a young girl who's living in the north of England, and her family are living as the ancient Britons did. So that means they're surviving by the tools and knowledge of the Iron Age. Something about that just goes crazy in my mind. Like, that sounds so interesting to me. I can't wait to pick this up. And this is a book I've never heard anyone else talk about either. So I'm kind of hoping it's gonna be, like, a really underrated treasure, and I can, like, force everyone around me to read it and love it. And then they're gonna be like, wow, Sabrina, you're so good at finding books. After that, we have Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin. This book, I saw Books and Lala read. I don't even know what she rated it, but I remember when she was describing it, it sounded so interesting that as soon as I saw it on Book Outlet, I had to pick it up. So I'm gonna try to tell you what I remember she said, but it's definitely gonna be inaccurate in some respects, but I'm gonna have the general vibe of the book, so that's all that matters. This book takes place in a world where there's these little toys, these little, like, creature things that are all the rage with children, and they're all the rage because they can, like, talk and move and interact with you. But the reason they can do that is because there's a person on the other side of it. So there's a person who can spy on your home, spy on your children, move throughout your home as you sleep in this little creature's body. And I think it has a lot to say about, like, surveillance and the surveillance state in particular. But the synopsis just sounds so interesting. I can't wait to pick it up. After that, we have Mornings in Jenin by Susan Abelhawa. I think I'm saying the name wrong. Like, I don't think it said Jenin, but I don't know how it's said. And I can't use my laptop right now because I'm filming my audio with my laptop. And I'm afraid of messing that up because it messes up all the time. So I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Please correct me in the comments. Please correct me in the comments all the time because I do not take personal offense to it. I really would love to know how to say things, but I'm just really dumb. Anyway, this book, I read another book by this author last year and it made it onto my best list of 2024. I loved it so much. That one followed a Palestinian woman who ends up in an Israeli confinement cell, and she's telling the story of how she got radicalized. This one also follows a Palestinian woman, but she's a refugee. And when she was younger, when her family was fleeing from the Nakba, her older brother was kidnapped by the Israeli soldiers, and he was just a baby at the time. And it follows her story growing up and kind of, like, the struggle of her family to survive. I'm convinced it's gonna be a beautiful story, just like Against the Loveless World was. I have such high expectations for this one. I just can't wait to keep reading books about Palestinian authors. I filmed a video last year about reading books by Palestinian authors. It was one of my favorite videos that I did. No one has watched it, but that's okay because I love it. But if you're interested, it is there to watch. I think I found a lot of really good books through that video. Then we have Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, another classic. I want to read this one because I've read most of Jane Austen's books by this point, but this is supposed to be her satiric take on a gothic romance. I love gothic romance. I love a gothic atmosphere, so I would love to see Jane Austen's take on it, even if it is satire. It's also a short book, and I've also know that Jane Austen's writing is like really accessible and easy to understand, so I'm hoping that I can put this one on the list because it won't intimidate me as much, and then I have like a higher probability of actually picking it up. Because again, classics scare me, I don't know why. Then we have Upstream by Mary Oliver. This is a collection of selected essays by a very famous poet. I think her poetry has a lot of like earthy imagery, like nature, beautiful nature imagery. I could be wrong because I've never read her poems. But I bought this on Book Outlet and I've just been obsessed with the idea of it ever since. I don't even read many essays, but when I do read an essay collection, I tend to really enjoy them. And I'm even more excited to read one by a poet because I love when poets write things that aren't poetry. Because I'm not a poetry girl. I like some poetry, but it's very hard for me to like poetry, to be honest. But I love the way that poets write just so beautifully and lyrically a lot of the time. So I have really high expectations for this one, and I really want to read it this year. After that is another one that's kind of coming out of left field, and there's The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. I am not a short story girl. I tend not to like them. I tend to need like a longer narrative to really get into a story and really like the characters. So I think that's why they just tend to not stay in my memory very long. But there has been an exception with Carmen Maria Machado's short story collection, and ever since then I've been wanting to read some more to see if I would actually like them. This one I really want to pick up because last year I read, I have to like check, The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know how I forgot that name. I couldn't tell if it was A Haunting or The Haunting. Anyway, I read that book last year, loved it. Another book that made it to my best of list. So I really want to read everything that Shirley Jackson's ever written now. And I've heard a lot of really good things about The Lottery, so I wanted to pick this up. It also has a really nice cover, and I love the spine in particular. Can you see it? I hope you can see it, because my camera's not updating. Anyway, I'm really excited about this. I'm hoping I'm going to love it. After that, we have Arer of Night by Mariana Enriquez. This is another Argentinian author. I just want to read everything that's ever been written in Argentina. Anyway, this one follows a boy and his father. The boy's mother died recently, and him and his father are traveling to his mother's family to kind of like spend some time with them. But there's something off about her family. I believe, let me double check. That's it. They commit unspeakable acts in search of immortality. Sounds so cool. I've heard a lot of really great things about this author. People talk about her short story collections, but again, I'm not really a short story girl, so I really want to pick this one up first. This will be another one that has to go in my Reading Around the World video. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited. I don't know why it's taken me so long to pick it up. I think I'm a little scared about how much I'm excited about it. So this is what I definitely have to prioritize. Then we have Lies and Sorcery by Elsa Morante. This book I don't know much about. I'm not going to try to read the synopsis because I kind of want to go into this one blind. It is a beefy book. And it's also at NYRB, so another publisher that I really want to read this year. However, I have heard that this book, and this author in particular, has inspired Elena Ferrante to write My Brilliant Friend, or is one of her inspirations in general for writing. And that made me want to pick this up instantly. I love My Brilliant Friend. I love the Neapolitan novels, and I want more of that. And I've heard that this also deals with like female friendships and just like relationships and stuff. So this immediately skyrocketed to like the top of my TBR after hearing that. And again, this is an Italian novel, so I could also throw it in my Read Around the World challenge. Oh my god, I've just been stacking all these books precariously in front of me, and like they're gonna fall over any minute now, but I'm trying to avoid it. It's very, you don't even know, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of anxiety here. Anyway, we're down to our final three. The third last book is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, I think. I don't know. correct me in the comments. This is a Polish novel. I do need more Polish novel recommendations. Someone commented on one of my videos a very long time ago and gave me Polish novel recommendations. If you still watch my videos, please comment again and let me know the book I should read, because I really want to do a reading around the world video for Poland, because that's where my grandfather was from. But I want your recommendations again. I'm going to try to find them, but it's going to be hard to look through all my videos and all my comments. I get so many. Anyway, this follows a woman in a remote Polish village. She spends her days studying astrology, and then all of a sudden, one day, someone in the village dies, and she kind of dedicates herself to investigating it by herself. I phrased that so weirdly. Just forget that I did that. That's what this book is about. It sounds so interesting. I've heard so much about this author. Everything she writes sounds so compelling and so good. So I really just need to like pick up a book by her, and this is the only one I have. So I really want to read this. And I saw, what's that guy? That guy from The Last of Us, Pedro Pascal, is that his name? I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna be really embarrassed when I'm editing this. The guy from The Last of Us was reading this book. Have to read it. That's a celebrity I like. I don't like many celebrities, but I do like him. Second to last book is The Love Song to W.E. Du Bois. W.E. Bois, did I just say that? W.E.B. Du Bois. Anyway, I always want to say his name like Du Bois because I took like one semester of French, but I took a sociology course and that's not how you say his last name. I don't know much about this book. I know that it talks about Du Bois like sociological, I can't think of the word, concepts, that's the word, and it puts that into like a book form, especially like his concept of the double consciousness, I believe. This book, I recently went on Goodreads and I created a shelf for every book that's on my own TBR, which for FYI is like 460 books. I'm so embarrassed by that, but I have to publicly shame myself and say that. And then I went and I sorted them through, like, which books are the highest rated and lowest, just because I was curious. And this is, like, the highest rated fiction book that I have on my shelf, I'm pretty sure. That could actually make a fun video. Let me know if you'd like to see that as a video as well. But that made me really want to read it. But I feel like I need to read more Du Bois before I read it to, like, refresh my memory of what his sociological concepts are. So I do have like a nonfiction by him that I'm going to try to pick up before I read this or read in tandem. But yeah, I'm really excited about this one now. And then the very last book on this list, the 25th book I want to read in 2025, is The Count of Monte Cristo. This is a book that I started, I don't even know when. It might have been 2023. And I got like a decent amount of way through it, you can see. And I was loving it, is the thing. But I got to one part of the book that got to be like the slightest bit slow. Not even that slow, just slightly. And I put it down and never picked it back up. But I was really liking it, and I hear so many people talking about how this is like the best book they've ever read, that I just need to finish it. Like, this is weighing on me, the fact that I haven't finished this book. I need to finish it. So this is definitely like top priority, need to read this year. Maybe I'll put this in my France reading vlog. We'll see. Anyway, those are the 25 books I want to read in 2025. Let me know which book I should start with down below. If you've read any of these and you loved them or hated them, let me know. Also, let me know what books you want to read in this upcoming year, and I'll see you soon for another video. Goodbye!